Everybody, welcome back to the Mass Retirees Weekly Update. Today's Friday, February 11th. I'm Sean Duhamel. Thank you so much for joining us and tuning in again this week. I'm joined by our legislative liaison, Nancy McGovern. We're going to give an overview of the progress that our legislative team has been making this session with advancing quite a few Mass Retirees supported pieces of legislation forward. Last week, if you tuned into the video or if you read the weekly email report, you know that two of our bills related to the cost of living adjustment, the COLA, were favorably released by the Joint Committee on Public Service a week ago. Both of those bills are now moving forward, and I believe will very soon be before the House Committee on Ways and Means, which is the first step of the budget process for the year. But we covered those details last week. This week, we want to spend a little bit of time taking a bit of a deeper dive into the other 8 pieces of legislation that we're working on, along with a couple of other items. But before I do that, most importantly, later today at 1 o'clock this afternoon, we will be hosting the latest Mass Retirees Teletown Hall meeting. The meeting, once again, will kick off at 1 o'clock Eastern Time this afternoon. Now, there are 2 ways for our members to participate in these town hall meetings. The first way is to simply receive the automated phone call that will come from me this afternoon. All you need to do is answer the phone, stay on the line, and you're going to be automatically connected to the Teletown Hall meeting. Now, our Teletown Hall meetings range from 60 to 90 minutes. You know, we try to keep it to 90 minutes or less. For those of you who stay with us the entire time, 90 minutes is a long time to be on the telephone. So, and I understand that, we try to keep it rolling. The focus of this week's Teletown Hall meeting will mostly be on retiree health insurance benefits. As we've been reporting, there's a lot going on this year and heading into 2023 regarding your health insurance, regardless of whether you are a state retiree or a local retiree, or if you get your insurance benefits through the GIC or through Blue Cross or another insurance company at the local level. Everybody's in this together. The decisions that will be made over the coming year are going to have a tremendous impact to all retirees. So that's why this is so vital to our members, and this is why we're spending so much time and effort and energy on this topic, because first of all, we want to make sure that we have a voice and a seat at the table to get the best possible benefits at the lowest cost available to public retirees. We also want to make sure that you are well informed and engaged in this process every step of the way. So again, this afternoon, 1 o'clock. So the second way you can participate in the meeting is by calling the toll-free number that's published in our newsletter. It's published in today's email message that went to all of our members. And if you've renewed your dues with us for 2022, the toll-free Teletown Hall number is printed on the back of your membership card, right along with our hotline number, as well as the personal contact information for Nancy and myself and the rest of our senior team here at Mass Retirees. So there are multiple ways for you to participate, and we publish that number in multiple different venues for you to have access to it and to make it be super convenient. Now, if you're not a Mass Retirees member and you're watching this video, please consider joining with us. There are a few different ways you can join. Please visit massretirees.com. All of the information on becoming a Mass Retirees member, or if you're an active employee and you're interested in learning more about your retirement and using us as a resource in your retirement planning, you can also subscribe to our newsletter, to our weekly emails, and use us as a source of information. But again, all of those resources are contained on massretirees.com. So with that, let me jump into the news of the week. I'm going to start with some breaking news for all of you, and Nancy, feel free to jump in. But last Thursday, the House and Senate finally approved the latest COVID-19 assistance and relief package. Now, while this legislation impacts a whole bunch of different state agencies and private sector policies related to the COVID-19 pandemic and Massachusetts's response to it, what's most relevant to us is the reinstatement of the post-retirement work waiver that existed through 2020 and into early 2021 that waived the hourly restrictions as well as the earnings restrictions placed on public retirees who return to a public sector job here in Massachusetts. Now, that waiver was originally created by Governor Baker early in 2020 as a means to help supplement the state and local workforce here in the Commonwealth. It was tremendously successful. We have a countless number of members who return to work, and in some cases on a full-time basis, to help supplement the public workforce during the pandemic at local boards of health, the State Department of Public Health, the Department of Employment and Training to help process the deluge of unemployment claims that came in early in 2020. Our members have played a critical role of providing essential services to the people of the Commonwealth, and we can't be prouder of that fact. Now, the fact also remains that the pandemic, unfortunately, hasn't gone away entirely. Hopefully things will continue to get better, but we are seeing a great deal of strain and pressure amongst all employers, but particularly within public service to fill these essential jobs. And the legislature saw fit and wisely reinstated the waiver as part of this COVID-19 relief package. And Nancy, can you update the status of this right now and what we're anticipating happening?
So the legislation was sent to the governor last Thursday, and we're anticipating him taking action on that towards the beginning of next week. Currently, though, I don't want folks to forget that they're under an hours restriction, which was increased during last year's budget process, which we were successful in being able to secure that. So the hours went from 960 to 1200 hours per calendar year. And so that was one of our main pieces of legislation that we had filed as part of our legislative package, and it moved through the budget process. So depending on what the outcome of the governor's end of his process with the supplemental budget that went to him last Thursday, we'll be sure to update folks if that waiver is going to be reinstated, and that will be for calendar year 2022. So that's January 1 to December 31st of this year. And so we're just waiting on him to take action on it. But we, look to the videos and the emails and the hotline message for updates on that.
Yeah, just as soon as we get final word on what the governor decides to do, we'll make sure that we post an update next week on our Facebook page and on our website. And then you can also look to, as Nancy said, the video and the email blast next Friday for further information. But we're hopeful that the governor will agree with the legislature that this is the right course of action at this time. Now, in terms of the other pieces of our bills, and we still have a good 5 or 6 months left of the current legislative session. For those of you who don't follow activity on Beacon Hill as closely as we do, the legislature will complete its formal business for the year at the end of this July. So even though the legislature will continue to meet informally until the first Wednesday in January, they won't be taking any roll call votes after July 31st. So for all intents and purposes, our legislative program, we're now in a sprint for the next 5 or so months to get as many of these bills and proposals across the finish line and signed into law by the governor before the clock strikes midnight on July 31st. And that's been the normal process for several years, going back, I can't even remember when they changed the legislative rules, but these are the rules that we live under. But we're very optimistic. As I reported last week, two of our main bills that we're focused on right now, of course, are the cost of living adjustment, the COLA. And the reason for that is that timing is everything. Because of the great success of our public pension systems and the work that's been done by the state prim board, as well as our local retirement boards, and there's a lot to be proud of here. That success, in our opinion, should and can be shared with the beneficiaries of the system. So we are making every effort on a number of fronts to move forward and enhance and improve the COLA benefits. Now, the news that came out yesterday from the federal government in terms of the ongoing pressures of inflation. Nancy, I believe that the CPI through January was 7 point something percent. Do you remember the exact number?
To be honest, I don't. I think it was
Sorry, I know it was over 7%, which is a lot. Apparently, it's the largest inflationary number since 1982. So I was still in elementary school in 1982. So this goes back quite a while, but it's not good news. No one wants to see inflation at this level, and it really makes it more important than ever that we're able to make some progress when it comes to your COLA benefits. And we'll be reporting more on those activities as time goes on. But as I said last week, the first bite at the apple, if you will, in terms of the COLA, will be through the House budget, which will be released the middle of April and debated toward the end of April, following the school vacation week. The state Senate will then take up their version of the budget in late May, usually the week before the Memorial Day holiday. But we have 8 other bills that have been released from the Joint Committee on Public Service and other legislative committees. Nancy, why don't we, if you can, just quickly walk us through those 8 bills. I should also note that all of this information is contained and has been published in the March edition of The Voice, which is our newsletter. The Voice is at the printers as we speak. Next week's weekly update will feature Nancy and Bill Reary and myself as a preview for the March newsletter. But all this information that we're talking about is in the newsletter along with the bill numbers. But Nancy, if you could walk us through those 8 bills, it'd be great.
Sure. So to start off, Senate Bill 1676 and House Bill, well, actually, first of all, let me just note that while we file 18 to 20 individual legislative proposals, there are a number of bills that have or proposals that have both House and Senate versions under one topic. So a number of the pieces that have moved are in this situation where they have both a House and a Senate bill. So the basic life insurance, which has Senate Bill 1676 and House Bill 2708, that would increase the life insurance benefit from $5,000 to $10,000. In addition to the work that we're doing with the committee on this, we have also been working parallel with the Group Insurance Commission because they would be the ones that would have to implement the process for this. So we are working in tandem with them, along with working with legislative leaders to move this legislation. In the next topic pertains to local retiree insurance protection, and that's Senate 1712 and House 2613. This legislation would require that any changes to retiree splits at the local level would be those who retired prior to the change in their premium split would be held harmless. And the new split would only be on future retirees. House 2659 pertains to those who have option B and C for pre-July 2004 retirees. This was a change in the mortality table that impacted those that retired prior to July of 2004. This would make the adjustment to the current mortality table for those retirees. The next piece of legislation was House 2748. This is actually a brand new piece of legislation this session, and it has to do with estimated first pension payment. Currently, retirees at the state level are waiting a fair amount of time to receive their first pension payment, and this would require them to calculate an estimated payment so that, and then they'll go back and recalculate a regular payment for their first payment, but at least they're going to receive some type of payment in a timely manner under the statute as required by the legislation. Senate Bill 1723 would increase the minimum pension option D for survivors. This is relative to survivors who of public employees who pass away outside of a disability, who pass away of a illness that is not related to the disability. Sorry, get a little tongue-tied there for a minute. The next, it also pertains to survivors. It's Senate Bill 1766 and House Bill 2615. And this is pertaining to the survivor health insurance. So it would require a minimum contribution for health insurance premiums, as well as allowing retention of coverage should a survivor remarry. Senate Bill 1794 and House Bill 2749 pertains to the veterans bonus. This would increase the veterans bonus to $50 per month, so that we end up $1,000 per year. And then the final bill that moved is Senate Bill 1795, which would extend the definition of veteran. And this would, when the legislature made the change to include different categories of veterans under that definition, it only pertained to those that retired from August of 2004 forward. This would actually include the folks that retired prior to that date. So those are the 8 pieces that are currently awaiting further action. So what ends up happening now, just to kind of give people a little insight into the process, is that the legislation will either, if there is a fiscal component to it, will be sent to a respective Ways and Means Committee, where an additional financial analysis will be done on the legislation. If that is not part of it, then it can be what they call submitted to the orders of the day, which is a calendar that both the House and the Senate use as part of their sessions. And then on from there as part of that process. So we also look for opportunities to, to move legislation in other ways outside of just the strict single piece of legislation moving along the process. So if there's a large omnibus bill of a particular topic, it could potentially be moved in that type of a process as well.
As I said before, the legislative session runs through the end of July. We're going to continue to work with the bill sponsors as well as other, legislative allies of ours to move as many of these bills forward as we can. At the top of the list, of course, as I said before, the COLA bills, and there's really no formal order beyond that. Obviously, the basic life insurance is something we've been working on for quite a long time. As Nancy pointed out, it's also something that we're working closely with the State Group Insurance Commission's leadership on. And this issue may be part of the restructuring that's going to take place as a result of the upcoming procurement process. And that's something that we're actually going to talk about later today during our Teletown Hall event of how all of these various issues kind of link together for better or worse at times. Hopefully it's going to be for better. Everything that we're working on, all of our proposals are certainly good for retirees. We also believe that every single bill we file has a legitimate chance of passing and is something that is soundly put together. There is going to be a cost to a lot of these different bills, and that's oftentimes one of the things that presents a tremendous hurdle for us to overcome. But when it comes to things like the COLA, like the life insurance, the veterans benefits, we have had cost analysis completed by PARAC and other entities. And we believe that there's a viable way to pay for these things and help hopefully get that implemented over time. But if you have any questions on any of these bills, feel free to reach out to Nancy or Tom Bonarigo or myself. We're always happy to answer your questions. If there is a particular bill that you are personally impacted by, it is very helpful for us to for you to spend a few moments to contact your local state rep and your local senator in your own words and let them know why this is important to you. Form letters and talking points that we can come up with are not going to be helpful. It's not from the heart. You got to speak from the heart. I think, Nancy, from your reaction, you would agree as a former staffer.
I was going to say, as a former staffer, to hear from a constituent meant, the world, both to the legislative member and even the staff, that you took the time to share your experiences with them. It's critical to legislation moving. I can't tell you how many times I saw that happen. Bills kind of get stuck, and there's a surge of constituents, and next thing you know, it's on the move. So I can't stress that enough.
And our greatest resource is all of you. We have tens of thousands of members. You vote, you're politically active. Many of you know your local legislators personally. They know who you are. So by you taking the time to reach out and explain why any one of these issues is important to you, it really goes a long way toward the likelihood of us being successful. And our track record over the years, going all the way back to 1968 when Ralph White founded this association up until 2022, we have a great track record through legislative activity, but it's because of the grassroots support and activities of our membership. So with that, I'm going to sign off for today, unless you have anything, Nancy, that you like to close with, or?
Oh, I think we covered what's on the move. So
excellent. Well, I hope if you are available this afternoon, you're going to join with us at 1 o'clock. Again, there's a bunch of different ways you can participate. The newsletter is at the printers. We're going to have a preview of the newsletter next Friday for you, and you should begin to receive the newsletter in your mailbox about a week from today. It will be on the way to you next week. But again, thank you so much for tuning in, and we'll talk to you again really soon. Bye for now.